All right. Says that I am live. See what's going on here. Playing around with a new computer and camera that's on loan to me. If I like this, I might purchase one. I don't know. Maybe I'll make that big YouTube money. So anyway, as you can kind of see, I probably look a little rough right now. But we finally reached a point where you just got to take a break from work and everything that I do. Got up, tried to work a little bit on Friday. Finally went in. I had a birthday the previous couple weeks before, and where I work, you usually get a day off for your birthday. So I kind of walked in there and said I was going to go ahead and take my day off from work. Came home. Me and the girlfriend decided to spontaneously take off and go to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and I found quite a bunch of stuff while I was down there. So I figured I'd do a live show. But the thing about it is I'm not a huge fan of Pigeon Forge in Gatlinburg, Sevierville, Tennessee, Dollywood, all that stuff. But apparently, over the last couple of years, I think the last time I was actually there was like in 2002, except for an evening in the late 2000s where a couple of my friends showed up at my place and we drove 2 hours just to do go-karts and they drove us back. It was really weird. But apparently a lot of stuff went up. But of course, the traffic hit. The traffic's what kills me. But there was a lot of great stuff that came up. Um, and still was able to find a few comic book shops and hit a few flea markets and find some good stuff. All right, we got some people out there. It'll be interesting to see how this works on a laptop. I might be able to see some chats better and things like that. Like I said, for people just popping up, I'm experimenting with a computer here. It's on loan. Maybe I'll be able to purchase it or something. But one of the funny things before I jump in here to the comics is since I've come back, my views have gone way up. It gives you statistics and things that'll tell you how many people who subscribe to you watch, how many people unsubscribed watch. A lot of my people, hey, what's up, Scott Connor? What's up, man? So what I found out is that I have more people watching my stuff that are not subscribed to me. So go ahead and subscribe and hit the bells and all that stuff. Share the videos on Twitter and everything like that. And then it's like I lost like 7 people in subs, went up to, and then it goes up and down and it settles and stuff. So it's kind of odd that I get more views, more activity, but I kind of lose people. That's kind of wild. I don't understand how that works. So anyway, all right, we got all kinds of people starting to fly in here. But like I said, the Howler Mouse channel is like I will talk about what I want to talk, but a majority of the time it is about pure comics, the joy of comics, history of comics, things that go on, and of course, anything now happens. I'll definitely like talk about it and stuff, and I'll take questions and requests for videos and stuff like that. So anyway, some of the bigger things that I got that were just fantastic to me is that I don't mean to just, I do mean it. I hate to be negative. I can only work with what I'm given. But a lot of, like I said, a lot of the mainstream books and stuff out there just do not do it for me for the price that they're charging, the quality of the story, the quality of the writing, quality of the art, things just don't measure up for me. And I really don't like having a comic book that I can read in 3 minutes flat and just have to wait and nothing really happens. So you go out and you start doing the back issues with the money that I've saved and things. And there's a lot of great things you can go back in those back bins and things and find. I found some really cool stuff. Now, this isn't mine. This is the girlfriend's and stuff, but I kind of showed it to her. One of the first things we have here is, and if I'm mirrored, guys, let me know. This is a new computer and it showed me as mirrored. So let me know what you guys are saying, and I'll change some settings later on. But anyway, this is a hardback of Delicate Creatures. J. Michael Straczynski, Mike Zulli came in here, and they've told some great tale with, you can see there are fairies and stuff. I was told that this is actually a good read. They're actually halfway through it, whether you're setting it. But it's an actual story, but we have, it's prose work. Then we'll have some great artwork by Mike Zulli in there. Now, Mark Zulli, if I'm even saying the name right, I just know through his fantastic work through The Sandman, where he came in, did a few issues here and there with Neil Gaiman. And then I know he went to Marvel and did like a Web Spinners and came on there and did some Spider-Man. And I'm sure he's done other stuff, but a lot of his stuff that I've always seen is that his line work, his pencils are so delicate and fulfilling and expressive that usually they just go ahead and they print his stuff straight from pencils to the page to tell the story. In this, not so much. I don't know if he actually inked his work or colored it or what went on into this. But this is a guy that he's like he's kind of like I'm trying to think who I'd put him up with there. You know, some heavy metal guys and stuff. What's up, Sergeant Bass? What's going on, man? Everybody go check out Sergeant Bass's channel. I've checked out some of his stuff that he sent me. He sent me a video tour on Twitter. Definitely go check him out. But anyway, we have that. That's a hardback. Oh, yeah. The tradition, the old tradition, YouTube traditions, when we had a hardback, we had to knock on it. So that was really cool to find. And now I have this complete. When I went up to see Charleston 66 last year, what was it, September, October, we went to Baltimore Con, and then when we got closer to where he lives, he took me to a used bookstore, and I found the complete series, a little trade of this by Mike Allred. So I found issue number 6 of this for that was $5 for that hardback. This was $2, which I cannot believe, but it's issue 6 of 7 of Mike Allred's Red Rocket 7, where we kind of have a sci-fi tale that spans and mixes into and weaves its way through the history of rock and roll, which is just amazing. It's in here. Red Rocket 7 is in the center there, but this has actually been like my banner, I guess, on Twitter and things like that. But this is Mike Allred's doing Sergeant Pepper's, the Sergeant Pepper Beatles album, the cover of it, an homage, if you will, with the rock stars and stuff. And it's fun just to kind of go through here and figure out who everyone is and stuff. But I absolutely love this. It also came with a promo card, which I thought was just fantastic. So this is just really good stuff. I bet I'm mirrored. If I'm mirrored, guys, put it in the comment there. Okay. But I just love this whole story. I love all the cameos in here, going through the history of rock to figure out who everyone is. It's a pretty basic sci-fi story on here, but it's just something I really enjoy, and it was really cool to find an issue of it pretty cheap. There's 7 of them, so I'm not going to go out of my way to find them, but if I definitely see them, I want to pick them up. We'll bag that back a little bit later. Make sure that tape doesn't go everywhere. And this was a treat because I wanted to get these back in the 90s, I believe, when these came out. 1997, yeah. Now, these are not quite treasury size books, but they're definitely, you know, bigger than your average comic, if you will, right? But Barry Windsor-Smith just seemed to take off. I remember seeing his art here and there throughout the 80s. A one shot on Iron Man, I think, a cover here and there, an issue of X-Men every now and then. And then all of a sudden he came on Marvel Comics Presents and did this anthology tale on Wolverine, getting how he got his adamantium, even though Wolverine can't remember it. And then all of a sudden he was like the man on the Valiant books, the stuff that he was doing there on Solar and Archer and Armstrong, and he dabbled into writing. David Lapham came in there, and you could tell that Windsor-Smith sort of was guiding him, or giving. You could see the influence of Barry Windsor-Smith on some artists there. Then he went to Defiant Comics, I think. And then all of a sudden, he was just sort of started doing his own thing, and he came out with these storyteller books. And it's an anthology series. There's 3 or 4 stories in here. And some of the artwork in this is amazing. Of course, he's coloring himself. But like this double-page spread, I made this my banner, my cover photo on Facebook. There's dragons in there, all these colors, the intricacies, the crystals, the gems, whatever. Oh my God, this thing has just blown me away. Of course, it's got stories in here that are dedicated to Jack Kirby right off the bat. Young Gods, Freebooters, The Paradox Man. So you get like sci-fi, fantasy, just all sorts of things. And this stuff just blows me away. He has someone who looks like a fat Conan in here. I just don't know. And then there's things in here where I'm like, I would totally get a tattoo of that right there. I haven't read this. I want to get a few of them, but I found this for $1, and they had the price tag right on it. I was able to work it out while I was laying in bed while we were out of town. And then, of course, we get science fiction in here as well. You know, we get the little gray aliens have abducted someone. So this stuff is just amazing. Just blows my mind. I was so happy to finally get one of these. The only thing I have is a promotional one. Okay, so yeah, we get the studios and the artwork in here, and who did what and where and what's happening next issue. So this is going to be fantastic. That was super cheap. That was really cool. Now, the next thing I have here is going way back to a guy named Wally Wood. And this is what I mean about having a problem with the artwork and the general quality of comics of today. It's not that I'm some old man sitting there yelling and trying to live yesteryear and telling people get out of my yard and stuff like that. But it's when you go back and you see the artwork, the work that people did that were around in the 50s, the 60s, the early 70s. And Wally Wood, I cannot believe I found this. And I think this was $3. But I'm not. I'm gonna have to look and see what this is. But this is just printed work. It's called Woodworks, and this is some stuff by Wally Wood thrown together. Um, Wally Wood's career really messes with me because, like, in the '50s and stuff, he was with EC Comics. The guy was a freaking superstar, but he started getting to be unreliable, if we will, for many reasons. The guy comes on to Daredevil in the Silver Age, and he gets him in the red suit. The guy's always respected, and apparently, this is a lot of stuff that he was doing through the late '60s, and it blows my mind because if you look at the stuff, considering that this is printed from the late '60s, his artwork is timeless. But his career really sounds like it's his career just kind of it has this surreal feel to me when I kind of hear the story because it's almost like the girl that takes off the L to try to become Bats. Yeah, Eric Bean's out there. What's up, guys? But it's almost like the story of the girl that goes out to Hollywood to be famous, wants to be a famous actress, model, and all that stuff, and she ends up in porn. Well, that's kind of what started. Yeah, $3. That's what I'm saying, Scott. Yeah. So he ended up becoming unreliable, had some issues, and he ended up doing adult comics like porn. You know what I mean? This is like the late '70s, early '80s, and then early '80s ended up committing suicide. And I think this came out in '82. Either let me see, has 6/29/82 written in it in pen. So I don't know if this was someone's, but his artwork was just timeless. Some of the stuff he has in here, and I mean, a lot of this stuff would look like Pixar today that he did. And this is from like the '60s and the '50s. Highly influential artist. So that's what I'm saying. When I go back and I want to look at stuff, I mean, there's fantasy in here, Wizard War. It looks like stuff. It looks like it was influenced anything and everything that he did. Okay, what do we got here? I have a message being held for review. We're just going to go ahead and show it. I can read it. There's some new stuff going on here with the chats. Okay, Sergeant Bass, Eric Breen's out there, Scott Connor's out there, Tom Bagley. I picked up some reprints of the old EC sci-fi that had Wally art in it. Spectacular. You can see Frank Miller greatly pulled from him. Yeah, those EC comics, just everybody. Frank Miller, Eric Powell. Eric Powell will tell you that they were huge on him and things like that. EC Comics had a quality of art that's just never. Jack Davis, all those guys has never been touched, which just lets me. That's what gets me when you know the history of comics and you see the stuff that people were putting out back in the day to see some of the stuff that I'm seeing today. There's no excuse for it. No excuse for it. I can save my money and find this stuff. Hey, Dave McKenzie is here from Canada. What's up, Dave? Nice to see you. All right. Now, some of this might be a little mixed up here. I think I'm missing a bag or it's mixed in here. Let me look here. Oh, sure, you can get the other in there. But anyway, let me pull all these out. But I'm always looking for reference material on comics. Back in the day when I was known as Howlerpedia, way back in the day, when I would just go into these big talks and rants and go with this stream of consciousness where people would ask me questions and things would pop out of my head, I'd get asked, well, I just read. I read this stuff, anything I could. And luckily, I retained it. I wish I could have done this stuff to be a doctor. But some of the reference stuff that came out in the early '90s that came out is Who's Who in the DC universe. Now, in the early '80s, like starting around '84, and even before that, with the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, we had comics coming out where Mark Grunwald and a bunch of artists and some Pete Sanderson and all these names would come out, and you would have your heroes coming out in alphabetical order, and you'd get a page of origins and first appearances and just a rundown of who these guys were. Well, all of a sudden, they started making them, a few of these in the early '90s here, 1990 maybe or something like that. And all of a sudden, you got this instead of a comic. And what's cool about them is that they came to where you take the pages out and put them in a binder editions. And I'll have a few of these, and I'm trying to get them. Okay, so like in the first page here, we get Aries, and then you would get like a rundown, you know, all the information and stuff. But what kind of amazes me is that there's no rhyme or reason to how they put these books together. But you would have color codes, like black would be villains. So I guess if you were into binders and stuff back then, you could take these things apart and you know, really make your own thing, organize them your own way. Maybe they were for gaming. I don't know, man. Oh, we got some comments. Hey, been to an anime con in Pigeon Forge. I've never got to any of the shops. What I saw online, there were 3, and there's one that's been there forever, but it keeps going through different owners. And I have a little bit of history with that because in Pigeon Forge, we'd go down there on the weekends out of nowhere, and we'd hit the same shop. Now, and then in 2002, I went there and it had a lady who was owning it who didn't really know anything about comics, in my opinion. I ended up getting a bunch of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle trades from First Comics from the 80s. And as she was sitting there bragging about how her prices and how she keeps up everything on the computer, nobody's going to get anything buy on her and all this stuff because her son came down from Washington and he's a genius and she took care of her. I mean, she's being really obnoxious about it. But as she was talking, I pulled out John Byrne's Next Men number 21, and I ended up buying Hellboy for the first appearance of Hellboy for $2-3 while she was talking. So there was a couple of them. I saw 3 shops, but some of the stuff I got at flea markets, and we didn't spend a lot of time at flea markets, but I still found some stuff. We didn't know we were going. We didn't know we were going. We just up and did it. Hey, nice shirt, by the way. That's right. Scott should recognize this shirt, my Metropolis shirt. That's right. Kid Ragnarok. Hey, what's up? Well, I loved Who's Who and Handbook of the Marvel Universe Essential as a kid pre-internet. Yeah, exactly. John said, I really enjoyed Who's Who and Handbook as a kid growing up. And I love these, right? Like I said, there's no rhyme or reason with what they do in here. But for you guys that are into the Doomsday Clock, into Watchmen that's going on, into the HBO show coming on, I went to Wikipedia trying to find out if there's any more information about when the Watchmen TV show is coming on on HBO. And from what I'm guessing, it's taking place 30 years, like in today's time or something, after 1986 or whatever, when the issue 12 came out and Ozymandias did all that stuff. But you follow Doomsday Clock, they have Marionette and Mime as characters in there, right? And they're based on the old Charlton characters of Punch and Julie. Well, Marionette and Mime apparently are going to be in the show. They have people casting them. They're in the cast. Yeah, this is the one that got me. I never realized, and I knew this, but I completely forgot. But as a Doom Patrol Teen Titans fan, they've taken the Society of the Brotherhood of Evil, if you will, and changed them to Society of Sin. And they even have some nice John Byrne art there. But I got a couple of these. I got that one. They didn't really make that many of these, to tell you the truth. I haven't opened these yet, but I have this one. I have 1 or 2 in some binders. I'll be putting them in today. And the Guy Gardner one. The big one to get is the one with the Joker on the cover. I think it's number 13. Excuse me. I think it has a fold out poster of the Batcave or something in it. Okay. But Marvel was coming out their official ones also of these, and they're a little bit different in format, but you can still use a binder. You can see that they're smaller in size. I have several of these also. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I think DC got them, even though we get a little bit more information with the Marvel ones. And the way they do it is that they have a stock form. The art is where they get them. You'll have a front view, a profile, and a back view on everybody. There you go. What you're going to do though. So I have several more of these. These pop up. These were all $2 a piece. So, that's how I'm always getting stuff like that. I have a whole box of just reference material. Hey, Charlton 66 is up here. I was talking about our my Baltimore trip to see you a few minutes ago, and you took me to that bookstore there, Charlton. Tom Bagley love Who's Who and the Marvel Encyclopedia stuff. Jeff Rowan wrote Encyclopedia of Superheroes and Encyclopedia of Supervillains in the 80s that included small press stuff. Oh, yeah. Heroes. Oh, man, what was that book? I got some other reference material. I could probably do a whole video. I think I have done a video of nothing but the reference material. Scott Connor, going to try to make it to Baltimore this year, talking to Charlton 66. I'm liking Doomsday Clock, but with the delays, it's lost its momentum. Yeah, I totally agree. They had 2 years to prepare for this. They're saying they're coming up with stuff like, let's give everybody time to get their artwork together. Let's get all the books to line up with Doomsday Clock number 12. They've had 2 years. What is it? This thing started. I mean, I just posted about this a couple weeks ago. They started this stuff in 2017. Here we are in 2019. They've got like 9 books out, if that. It's really lost its momentum. Okay. Hey, JLS Comics is out there. He's saying hi to everybody. What's up? Okay, guys. Going on with a few more things. Now, this is really wild. If you look at the live show I did last weekend, I think it was, I was talking about post-apocalyptic comics. That's a show I'll probably do every now and then. I want to do a little bit more with that because I'll enjoy those comics. Now, the comic book shop, if you see that red line there, anything that had a red line put through the price tag was $1 for some reason. This was a $10 book. This is Doomsday Clock number 4 from 1975. This is some of John Byrne's first artwork on a regular series, if you will. And again, I'm going blank, but I think they only had like 8 issues or something of Doomsday plus 1. Yeah, Doomsday plus 1. And this was a post-apocalyptic story, kind of, bunch of people survive. I think they're like astronauts or something. They find a frozen Viking and then they go out into the world, that's been out post-apocalyptic, been hit with the nuclear bombs and stuff like that. So what they did is they did the numbering like 1 through 8. And then they started reprinting everything from number 1 over, and they didn't change the numbering. They put it at number 9. And then in the 80s, Fantagraphics grabbed it and they put out the series again with better coloring. So I've had number 1. I'm always picking up original issues. This is probably like my 3rd or 4th one. And I know it's not showing up well, but it's a lot of that is the paper and the coloring that they used. Charlton Comics used a printing press that was also used to print cereal boxes. So there's a texture all their own to their comics. Agreed on Doomsday Clock. Dig the story and art, but damn those delays. Yes, a Charlton comic there, brother. You got here just in time. So many heavy hitters in the indies back then went under the radar because they weren't Marvel DC. Lots of gold in them hills. Yep. Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the beginning of the video. A lot of the quality of work that's coming out now from comics and stuff, I'm just not buying it for many reasons. And I have more money to go back and get stuff, stuff like that. Go fill in stuff I've always wanted or fill in those gaps that I've had. And with the Gil Kane covers. Oh, that's right. Was that the Fantagraphics that had Kane covers? Yes, I think so. Cayman X has arrived. But anyway, I like this stuff. To me, this is like this book here I've always described as like if you like some bad drive-in B movie, this is pretty good because it's you read it and you're just like, this is odd, Okay, so I think this has also been announced as a TV series, and I want to say it was Netflix that picked it up. I'm not sure, but I have all these in hardback. These were a series of 6 miniseries. I want to say there were 6 issues a piece or something, but this is Lock and Key if you can't see it. I'm wondering about, like I said, for everybody that's popping in here, I have a computer on loan to test out the camera and stuff to see how the live chat goes. Right now, it looks like I'm mirrored. I hope I'm not to you guys. But anyway, I'm looking at this, and this is a gray tone cover for Lock and Key. Lock and Key came through IDW. It's written by Joe Hill, who I like how he ended up. I mean, the people in the know he's the son of Stephen King, but he has really put out a lot of great work on his own in novels and stuff. And Lock and Key was one of those rare books where I read the first series, didn't want to continue with it, found a good deal on the hardbacks as they went on, and this book gets better and better and better to where it's a classic and it's close to my heart. It's freaking fantastic. So I'm always picking up odd issues of Lock and Key, especially now that it's become, Fox somebody presented it to Fox to try to make it a TV show, and I think it's been picked up by somebody. What we got here? Kamiko first, Eclipse. It was an exciting time for indie publishers. Yeah, Tim Truman really shined and came out of that. Me and my buddy Anderson are Tim Truman fans. We've actually met him a couple times, and I love stuff like Scout that he did. I've been reading The Prowler. If you guys haven't gotten into that, that's 2 4-issue miniseries where it was sort of like Dark Knight Returns, but it was more like the Shadow Returns 40, 50 years later, and he's an old man. And it's just he's got a cruel streak in him like you would not believe. More in the real world, just all kinds of stuff. A lot of, I mean, there's, the big black and white boom that hit after Cerebus and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that stuff. There's just so much stuff to go back and get. Kid Ragnarok. Nah, I started buying Charlton Scary Tales before I moved to Texas. I like Baron Werewolf. Oh, what is the name of that title? Baron Werewolf's books. It's sort of like he was a horror host in the vein of Cain and Abel. I like those books. Paulo Costo is here. What's up? Tom Bagley, James O'Connell. Okay, cool, man. All right, now I don't know if I want to go for all 300 issues of Hellblazer. There were 300 issues of Hellblazer, started in '88, and then they quit them at 300 through, they were, through Vertigo. Started back with the 52. And I think this makes me, I'm around 203 issues. The thing about Hellblazer is that it is so freaking hit and miss with the stories because different creators would come on. Some would do a 2-issue story, 3-issue story. Some would stay on for a while. It would get acclaimed. So I was finding that it's not like collecting Cerebus where it has the same creator and writer on it. So basically, I think I want to make sure I have the first 100 issues because Jamie Delano, in my opinion, really set the tone for Hellblazer. Garth Ennis came on, and they had Grant Morrison come in there and do an issue, and Grant Morrison did an issue. But Jamie Delano, the way that person wrote those Hellblazer stories, they were haunting. You would read the stories, it didn't feel like it was anything super spectacular. And then you would put the book down and you find yourself, reading the story in your head or feeling it or something would stick out of it. Really creepy. It was they were able to put a creepy feel in those books. Garth Ennis came on, gave him cancer and stuff. So, I was able to find some of the Ennis books. Here's number 49 and number 42. So I'm thinking I'm just going to be getting at least the first 100 issues of Hellblazer because I'm so close to having all those, and then keep maybe a Warren Ellis run here, some stories there. But a lot of that stuff is hit or miss. If you're a Constantine fan, a Hellblazer fan, cool. You probably love all of it. But me to have 300 issues of a run that I'm never going to reread again, and I'm just going to read certain storylines, nah. Oh, what do we have here? Oh man, it's moving along. Truman and Ostrander on Grimjack was a favorite. I have one issue of Grimjack, and over the weekend there was an actual little tiny bookstore like thing in a flea market, and they had their trade 60% off. And I saw Grimjack. I want to say IDW has put those out in trades. I don't know. Like I said, we didn't have a lot of time. I have a Grimjack book that has a backup by Fred Hembeck. That's the only reason I have it. It's around issue 26 or something. Mike Grell on John Sable. Mike Grell fans are Mike Grell fans or Mike Grell fans. So yeah, Mike Grell, to me, he's always going to be the warlord guy, Yeah, and I know he's done remarkable things and did remarkable things with Green Arrow. So I totally get that, Mike Grell. Now we're talking about some old school guys out there, people. The last thing I saw him do was Shaman Tears at Image, and I think it was one of the first books that Image purged for people not getting their books out on time. I don't know. I never read those. Baron Werewolf's Haunted Library. Thank you, Studio Fitness. Yep, Scout and Grimjack was phenomenal. I'm actually wanting to get some time to do a Scout binge to read that. Tim Truman has been doing fundraisers or crowdfunding or something to get another Scout book going. I love the Ennis Dillon issues of Hellblazer. Yeah, Steve Dillon, Garth Ennis, that was great stuff, man. And of course, Steve Dillon and Ennis went on to do Preacher. So, trying to make sure we're talking about Hellblazer there. Anyway, let's see. For Hellblazer, you have to know about the UK in the 80s to understand some of it. That's John Jones. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I don't really do Hellblazer reviews and stuff. It's obvious that it is English culture in there, especially in in the first year, big time, in my opinion. Issue number 11 felt like haunted. I'm not going to get I'm going to get up on a big Hellblazer rant and stuff, right? I felt like Hellblazer was at its absolute best in the first 150 issues. Ellis and Azzarello were great. That's from Tom Bagley. Yeah, I'm totally down with that. That's what I'm saying. it gets into be runs and stuff, teams runs. They have a story to tell. Definitely the first 100 issues. I'll probably agree with you about the 150 at least so far with what I've read. Growing up in the '80s in the UK made Hellblazer scarier. I could imagine. That's all I can say is I could imagine. See, get your Margaret Thatcher fixing those Hellblazers. Yeah, Margaret Thatcher. Obviously, we heard about her over here on the news every now and then you had her you had Alan Moore do V from Vendetta, where he said that that was a reaction to setting Hellblazer in the future, according to Thatcher's England, UK. She wanted or something. You knew something was going on. What about Grail on Legion? Absolutely. Yeah, he came up with he and Cochran, Dave Cochran, did some of the most what's the word radical redesigns on character on suits and stuff for the Legion and stuff. There's people that there's people that still love the Mike Grell era of the Legion of superheroes. I have a bunch of his stuff when it was still Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes and stuff. Yes, absolutely. Grell has a Kickstarter. Nice. I'm gonna have to check it. Guys, turn on the live chat if you're watching this in the reruns here, because man, it's just coming. Mike Grell's The Longbow Hunter is a classic. Yep. To me, Mike Grell, he's a cover artist, in my opinion. He has some of the greatest covers that I'd ever seen, and it was on Warlord and stuff. He's that stuff that I would frame. I would love to track down some of the originals. Mike Grell's IDW revival of John Sable's Freelance was not as good as the original, sadly. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge Mike Grell fan, but um, like I said, I know there's people out there that are. Grell on Green Arrow is phenomenal. Truman on Hawkman too. I'm wanting to get some of that Hawk World stuff that Ostrander and Truman did, and all those guys picked up on. Sometimes creators go back to craft a new story 10 or 20 years later after the original series ended, and the magic isn't the same. It's kind of like fuel, rocket fuel. The chemistry isn't there. You don't have a blasting cap like you used to. Something's missing in the mix. All right, guys. So one of the series that has blown me away, and of course they would be mixed up here. Looks like I was in a rush to pack. So let me get some of this. Yeah, they're all mixed up here. Well, we only need to have them in perfect order here. But one of the series, and I want to make this statement now because I'm finally going to be able to read a run of this. But Legion 89, I showed some a couple videos back. This is number 2. Ended up getting a few of more of these, right? This took place after Invasion. You had Keith Giffen, Alan Grant coming on. And these are people who survived or escaped from a stockade, they were in a prison in space. And they come out and they end up forming the Legion. So I read the first issue. I have Invasion. They're in or like I said, they're in jail in space. And I'm seeing a few things in this where I feel like James Gunn uh, might have pulled at least the feel of it for Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie. You know what I mean? I'm like, holy shit, reading some of this stuff, right? So I finally got a great big huge stack now. I actually have the ones I read back in the day when these things first came out. I got them off the stands when I was able to make it to a bookstore because these were direct market. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who anybody was, and I felt kind of stupid because I was 16, 17 years old and stuff trying to read this. This is one of them, number 6, and we'll see number 9 here in a minute. And I was like, what is going on? Who are these characters? Why are they trying to tie this to the Legion 1,000 years in the future and stuff, right? And this is just a great sci-fi tale so far with what I've got, what I've read here. They pull in Lobo into it. And at the time, what a lot of people don't realize is that's the last Caesarian. Lobo, if you were able to make him bleed, each drop of blood was supposed to grow into another Lobo. Well, this guy, who is a ancestor of Brainiac 5, the original Legion and stuff, ends up somehow neutering him to where that doesn't happen anymore, to get power from him. So this guy has a cruel streak in him you wouldn't believe, and he's real manipulative, known as a bastard and stuff. What's going on in there? They pull in the Emerald Eye, if you know anything about your Fatal 5. And it's got, like I said, still got a Keith Giffen kind of feel to it. So every year they would change it, like the issues that actually came out in 1989, Legion 89, Legion 90. So a lot of good stuff so far in this. So I'm glad to really sit down and read this. I think this thing only ran for 70 issues and they turned it into Rebels. But this had a cult following back in the day. This had people talking. It was really, like I said, the way I'm remembering it was really odd. It wasn't so much a mainstream book, but it definitely had a following. People liked it, and I'm totally getting it. It had a little bit of humor in it. It had a little bit of heavy sci-fi in it, and it had it had some stuff in there where you were just sort of like, "Oh, how that was happening to them." There's a whole issue dedicated to this lady having an alien baby out in the middle of a planet all by herself, and the thing, oh, it was just disgusting what was going on, and she went through hell. A lot of these characters went through hell. Here's the other one I got. All of a sudden, they just pop up and they have Phantom Girl from the future pop up, and I never got the explanation of how she ended up popping up with amnesia. And of course, I know now. And people wanted babies. I mean, it was really bad. So yeah, I've got a pretty good stack of these. And this character in particular, she had a cult following back in the day. There were people that absolutely loved her that knew about her. What do we got here in the comments before I get to the last stack here? Sometimes creators go back. Yeah, we read that one. John Sable was a product of its time. So that's interesting take. Okay. And Jim Shooter's Legion. Jim Shooter's Legion still has waves. The stuff that Jim Shooter did at such a young age. He was like 13, 14, 15 doing that book. And there are still characters they pull from, storylines that they pull from. I mean, he made an impact on that book. Here it is over 50 years later, and they still pull from his stuff. And Jim Shooter did return a couple years ago to the Legion books. And Jim Shooter, being Jim Shooter, as soon as he felt like he was being disrespected or rushed on storylines and couldn't work as he did everything he felt that he could with adjusting his stories that he was bringing to the Legion. He ended up just having his name took off as the writer for issue 50, and they brought in somebody else just to pull, put an end to his storylines, if you will. Okay, I think we're talking about John Sable. There were a lot of references that made sense in the 80s and 90s, but were really dated when the character was revived. And making Harry Potter references didn't help. Oh my God, that does sound horrible. Thuggy's out there. What's up, Thuggy, man? Thuggy, my heart has gone out to you with your videos. Thuggy's been making the videos there where he's showing his previous art collection. He owns a ton of fantastic original art pages. Oh, okay. Cayman X. I hear James Gunn liked a show called Farscape that's similar to his Guardian movie. I never watched Farscape. I tried to, and then I found out I think that's the one that the Jim Henson Company had a hand in, which really surprises me because I grew up on the Henson stuff. Of course, this is after Jim Henson had passed away. Alan Grant and Keith Giffen were the deranged versions of Giffen DeMonte's team, underrated duo. Yeah, that's what I mean. This book that I'm reading, I'm kind of glad it hasn't blown up. I'm glad the issues are cheap and fine, and the quality of storytelling seems to be there. I want to end up just like I want to end up doing some more streams and stuff, bringing up the Legion. I'll definitely bring up the series now that I have enough to talk about and read. I was talking about Shooter returned to the Legion a few years ago. He replaced Mark Waid in the 3 boot, but it was pretty generic. I liked it, but then again, I hated what Waid did. So maybe if I revisit it, I have all the issues that Shooter did. I hated what Waid and with Kitston. Kitston was just doing a job. I just hated how Waid steered that version, the 3 boot Legion. It was horrible. I thought it was horrible. So to have Jim Shooter come on there and make it into the Legion again, I was just probably more appreciative, and that probably made me biased. People sleep on Jim Shooter's work for the short-lived Broadway comics. It was like Shooter's Valiant Part 2. Well, Tom Bakley, you had the Valiant stuff that Shooter did, but if you go back further, you would see that the blueprint for that would be the new universe. Okay. I mean, DP7 was Harbinger, things like that. And then when the coup took place at Valiant Comics and Shooter was pushed out by everybody and then they were sold to Acclaim, he came out with Defiant Comics, where he claimed that Valiant was the blueprint in this. And those Defiant books were good. I really enjoyed them. They weren't. He wasn't just rehashing the Valiant universe. You know, they were some really good stuff in there. And of course, they went out of business. And then he came out with the Broadway books, and I just couldn't do it. I just knew that after being through the Valiant breaking my heart with him leaving, and then Defiant Comics gone. You know, you knew there were so many books in the '90s they all wouldn't survive, but you didn't know that it wouldn't last, you know, barely a year. I just couldn't do it with Broadway. That's what I think really killed the Broadway comics, is that just nobody had any faith that it's going to stick around. I'm sure some of those books were good. Every now and then I'll run across them in a dollar box every now. I see Hickman is going to do an X-Men book, and John Byrne teasing new artwork. I'm sensing a team up. John Byrne, actually just watched an interview with him. I'll have to look at my watch later list or something if I stuck it in there. But Byrne sat down just to start doing some X-Men stuff on his own, supposedly, is what he's saying, where he just wanted to get it out of his head. But he would make the one shot that he did of the alternate ending of the Dark Phoenix saga. Dang on, man, we are just taking off, man. You know, but he came out and, you know, I have 2 copies of it, but there was a one shot put out where it was the alternate ending of Dark Phoenix saga where Jean Grey lived. And he said that it was really weird because when he put the pencil to paper, it's like all the characters in that story were in the pencil and they just came out. And so he's got pages and pages and pages picking up after the Dark Phoenix saga if Jean Grey had lived. And he said that C.B. Sobowski heard about him. John Byrne supposedly posted some of them on his Byrne Robotics website. C.B. Sobowski supposedly got a hold of him. There were some talks going on. But he said that in his mind, he would have that alternate ending book where Jean Grey survived the Dark Phoenix saga as issue 0, and then his series would take off from there. Kind of like X-Men The Hidden Years, except it would be the alternate. This would be the X-Men The Alternate History of Jean Grey Survived. Okay, I'm not going to back up in the comments, man. They're taking off. I like Wade's reboot. I love the idea of social movement the Legion had going on there. Lots of possibilities there for commentary. But it wasn't the Legion. That's the whole deal. The Legion was about unity in the universe and the United Planets and things going on. So to me, this was just looking at the Legion saying what's never been done with them and going the opposite way with it. That could have been done well and good to me if he had created a new team to be in the Legion of Superheroes world to be the mirror to them. You follow what I'm saying? Put another team that's the opposite of the Legion in that world and have the Legion meet them. Yeah, it was just, I just hated it. The Legion would never, ever use innocent people as shields. They actually had their headquarters, and to keep the police off of them or the government from shutting them down or something, their fans of those heroes came out with the Legion, and they just constantly kept teenagers out in front of their building that were like human shields and stuff. And I'm just like, this is 1,000 years in the future, man. This is not how it would go. I just couldn't accept it. The Legion would not let innocents put themselves in danger like that to protect them. It really made them fascist, I thought. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. Shooter was a great storyteller. People who are very good have a hard time with people who they don't believe are as good as in their estimate. I'm eating this up. Led to him not being liked by some. My thing with Jim Shooter, and it's in many a video, I never worked for the guy. I enjoy his writing. I think he's a great writer. I got to meet him at HeroesCon a few years ago, but he had a handler, which was just like, okay, but I never worked for the guy, so I've heard the stories of people who loved him and people who hated him. I think I only read one Defiant comic. I remember ads and Wizard more than having seen them on the shelves. If I was going to push one issue of a Defiant comic on anyone, I would push Charles Monet, number 0 or number 1. Was it number 1? Yeah, I think it's number 1. It's just a fantastic story. I mean, it's just fantastic. Oh yeah, Marvel UK underhanded lawsuit towards Defiant Comics. Yeah. That was horrible what they did. The Plasma, Warriors of Plasm, and just taking away, they knew they were going to lose, but they just ate up all the funds that Defiant had. I highly recommend Broadway. Starseed was close to Starbrand work, and Fatale was a smart take on the bad girl stuff at the time. Nice, Tom Bagley. Charlton 66 agreed. Awesome stuff. So he's apparently read them. Byrne appears to be coming out of his Ditko-like seclusion lately. That's from Thuggy One. Could be. I kind of hope so, man. I would like to see Byrne kind of come out. I mean, you collected comics in the 70s and 80s. John Byrne was the name. I mean, that's all there is to it. Tom Bagley, I think Wade was turning them into the Authority of the 31st century. Tom Bagley, I can see that with the Legion. I can see the Authority. That book ended up. I never saw a book influence other books since Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, in my opinion, with the ripples that came out of that. Yes, he's actually doing comics conventions. Charlton 66, awesome. Scott Connor, Tim, I must have said something. Oh, thank you. Charles Lemonet. Yeah, read what Scott Connor's thing said there. I am on my cup of coffee. I always make excuses for when I start slurring my words, but it's been a long 2-3 days. Thank you, Scott, for the pronunciation. To find out what I meant, if you ever meet John Byrne, ask him about Shooter, wear best his clothing. That's funny, Detective 29. No. Yeah, Scott Connor's still trying to get me to say that word right. It's not going to happen today, man. Yeah, but anyway. So, guys, I don't know if there's any I don't want to lose anybody here, okay? But these are comics, these are manga. And I've been looking them for a while, and when I do find them, I always Smith. That's funny. Like I said, I always grab these when I can. This is my, stack that I've had forever trying to find these. And I found these. And what was wild about finding these manga comics I'm about to show you was it really like put out the fire that was in me to find some good comics for cheap at the flea market stuff. I found these and this piece came over me, which I thought was pretty cool. I'm like, wow, I did it. I found them. But apparently what they did is this company, Viz Select Comics, and I'm still piecing together what they did. That's why these are so confusing in my mind to collect, because they're a series of miniseries that came out. And they're like part three, issue 3. Okay. You'll see what I'm saying. So what they did is they had a series of miniseries that they re-released in America for these, and I'm assuming that this manga series came out in the 70s in Japan or something. I'm going to finally be doing my homework on these now that I have a lot of them. But the first Studio Ghibli movie, for anybody that's watched Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, anything like that. Oh, Thuggy One, real quick. I bought a rare page of art. I brought a rare page of art to Shooter he had drawn. He groaned when he saw it. I said it's fine, but Shooter said he only drew as a last resort. Oh, that's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. I like how you were able to bring it back to him, I did not think that Shooter drew all that bad. I've got something here that Shooter drew, and it's only like 1 or 2 pages in the book, and I thought it was pretty good. I saw Mark Grunwald's artwork on a Hawkman miniseries. I thought it was fine. Yeah, the Paladine. Okay, so anyway, so we didn't know what Studio Ghibli was over here in the 80s, but what we were having over here in the States was like this big wave of video rental places opening up. And they became like, to me, they should be historic monuments in small towns and stuff, right? So we had Woody's Home Video. I ended up working there the last 6 months they were open. Grew up with that place in the early 80s. And all of a sudden, one day, this VHS was brought in, and I still have the VHS tape where my stepdad hooked up 2 VCRs and put it on a VHS tape with some other adult cartoon movies, if you will. And it's called Warriors of the Wind. The movie poster, I had the original movie poster. It had a character on there. It's not even in the movie and all this stuff. And I watch it. And it was one of the reasons I really didn't jump onto anime. We didn't know what we didn't around. Nobody called it anime back then. They can say they did, but very few people actually knew the culture or anything. And you watched Warriors of the Wind, and you could tell, like, oh god, this could have been better. This could have been something. But the cut was so bad, and the voice acting was so bad that it was almost a completely different story from the actual Nazca of the Wind. So thank goodness John Lasseter brought it over and talked Disney into bringing Studio Ghibli movies over officially with better casting with their voice work and keeping the storylines as faithful as possible, which is Studio Ghibli had been burned. You know what I'm saying? So to find this mangas, but this was the first one. This is a post-apocalyptic story where the winds have created valleys that are safe, if you will, from the radiation that's around the world, and they have these swamps and things, and these big creatures and animals and stuff, and it's just so fantastic. People still talking about Shooter there. I'll get back to it. All right, so I finally found a bunch of these, but like I said, these were a series of miniseries, and they're numbered really weird from what I'm used to. I'll probably get used to it, but you'd have like part 2, 3. That's what it would say, like right there on this one. So yeah, you didn't have part 2 of the third series. This is the second series, number 3, the way they've said it. But these are just fantastic, and I love this sideway cover. But these books are really well done. I'll open one up here in a minute and let everybody see it, man. But Nausicaa and Valley of the Wind, I have the DVD of this. I put it in every now and then. It puts me into a meditative zone when I watch these movies. They're just so fantastic. Just great stuff. And apparently the Studio Ghibli did a very faithful adaptation of these. Very cool stuff. Mobius. I have one where Mobius was a fan of this stuff, and Mobius did a poster in one of these books that I have. Just great stuff. So, yeah. So I'm always looking out for these. I will have all of these. They were, like I said, a series of mini-series, and I finally figured out the numbering, so I'll be able to look them up there. And then hold on to your hats, guys, but I don't know how many volumes were put out of this. Let's see what we got here. Let's enter this here. Okay, Detective 29. I have seen some of Jim Shooter's uninked pencils. He was really good at rough layouts for the pages, but was so-so with full pencils, in my humble opinion. Cayman X, Howler, what are some writers you always like the work of? I mean, the obvious one is Alan Moore. He did stuff. John Byrne, really. I've actually seen things where he supposedly said he thought of himself as a writer who happened to draw. He did a few things, but to me, Alan Moore's the big writer that will deliver every time, in my opinion. Garth Ennis, I think he's really good as a writer. I go back to Gardner Fox a lot, considering his stuff. I'm trying to think who else. But you also got to understand, I read things like Philip Jose Farmer, Mark Twain, Edgar Burroughs, old pulp books and stuff. Michael Moorcock. I mean, a lot of people I read are either dead or you're getting close to it. I'm trying to think who else off the top of my head when it comes to comic book writers. I'm actually kind of going blank right now. But Alan Moore is the one that I think has been consistent over the years, and his style actually changed and evolved over the years. He's tried new stuff. Back in the Japanimation days, interesting time for anime in America back then. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to show you a TV show. There's 2 TV shows that I liked. I did not like Japanimation, if you will, but it's turning out it's where it was the cuts and stuff. The stuff that I saw was just cut up so bad. The voice were so bad. I enjoyed Bubblegum Crisis. Nice. I believe Fist of North Star by Viz and Appleseed from Dark Horse were published in the same 3 parts formats. Right, I can see that. I loved Appleseed back in the day. My junior year in high school, sophomore, junior year, I would see advertisements for Appleseed, and somebody let me borrow some. I thought freaking Appleseed was awesome. So imagine my surprise a couple years ago when I found the movies on YouTube for free there for a while. I have no idea if they're still there. I love those creamy colors on the covers. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nausicaa Valley of the Wind art reminded me of Mobius to begin with. I can see that. I can totally see that. Someone that delivers every time, Harlan Ellison. That's right. Ray Bradbury, Harlan Ellison. Yeah. I've been reading Tom Bagley. I've been reading Alan Moore's Future Shocks lately, plus some stuff over there of Doctor Who that are collected shorts and stuff from over there in the UK. So maybe I have some of his stuff. I don't know. Harlan is the man. Alan Moore Swamp Thing are the best comics I've ever read. There's, traditionally, and for setting the groundwork for 2 different reasons. Let's put it that way. One was like the foundation that kind of put it out there as like the perfect run, that we used to say things like Jack Kirby, Stan Lee on Fantastic Four. But when it comes to like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing run, I cannot think of a more perfect run of comics for real, for what it is and stuff, right? It is timeless. It is perfect. It takes place out in the swamp. So we're surrounded by nature, and we're surrounded by nature, and he goes off to space. The settings, they really lucked up to where there's not a lot of settings through the whole run that makes it dated. A swamp doesn't really change. You don't get to see the technological advances. I mean, there's cars in there and towns and stuff. Don't get me wrong. We go to Gotham and stuff, but there's not a lot there that really takes you out of that time. I mean, I could just talk about that forever. I'm pretty sure Manga was presented. Well, what we were talking about EC Comics and stuff, and there was a very cool talk that Harlan Ellison had with EC Comics about them using one of his works. Harlan Ellison was a comic book fan also. EC Comics used his stuff, and he wrote stuff. Harlan Ellison is also a comic book fan. I'm pretty sure Manga was presented as a standard American comics because small books with. Yeah, I got it. I think Miyazaki. Oh, okay. Yeah, the studio. Yeah, he liked Mobius's work. Okay, yeah, if I can see that. I was getting ready to say G-Force Star Blazers. Loved catching those in the late 70s. Okay, Dave McKenzie. You're about to see where I'm going with this. Fist of the North Star. Nice. Mobius and okay, awesome. I read Alan Moore Supreme at least once a year. Best Superman saga I ever had. It's actually in this shelf right here behind me. Right here. There's some Alan Moore works right here in this bottom shelf I keep out so I can grab and read. Okay, so going back to the 70s when I was like 4 and 5 years old, in 76, 77, 78. I'm one of those kids that grew up on Saturday morning cartoons. They were sacred. They just became sacred. You got up, you might have problems getting up to go to school 5 days out of the week, but something about that Saturday morning, your butt was up. You get your Fruity Pebbles cereal, or maybe even your Captain Crunch cereal, so you could have like stalactites hanging from the roof of your mouth, the way it would cut you up and how sugary it was. You'd get your French Stone vitamins, so you got constipated from the extra iron in it. And you would sit there and the TV was yours from 6 in the morning till noon, and in some places till 1 o'clock. And then you might go outside, you might watch some wrestling, you might catch some Star Trek reruns or a Godzilla movie. You just never knew. Those Saturday mornings were sacred. And you had your ABC Schoolhouse Rocks. You had your bumpers. You had those bastards back then put on the New Adventures of Batman at the same time as your Super Challenge of the Super Friends. So you're clicking back and forth. And you only had 3 channels that showed cartoons all day. Okay, so those were the Saturday mornings. But before all those new cartoons came on and stuff, you would have syndicated cartoons. And unfortunately, a lot of those would come on at 6, 6:30, 7, and maybe even 7:30 in the morning. And that's where I discovered Johnny Quest. And that's where I discovered Battle of the Planets. And this is Battle of the Planets. Does this look familiar? Right? Okay. All right. Your Battle of the Planets. This was my first Japanimation TV show. And what blew my mind is that it had continuity. They had to show them in order. I picked up on this. The action was unreal. I love the sketchy animation that was there. I knew this was something special, not by words or me describing it, but how I was mesmerized by it. And I got the 1-2 punch with Johnny Quest coming on right after it. It was just freaking amazing. I was not Mark, but I was Jason. All right. Jason was the other dude who was a little bit more violent and stuff like that. And I would sit there and I'd get pieces of construction paper and stuff, and I would make their little wristbands here which they would activate their costumes and powers and all this stuff, right? It's Battle of the Planets, but it's Gatchaman. So I found this for $5 unopened at a flea market in Pigeon Forge. And apparently it's volume 7 and 8 with a extra DVD of, I don't know what it is. Let me see what it says here. Anyway, but this is the complete Japanese edition that is uncut and uncensored, right? And apparently this was a whole different show. in Japan where they got to face reality in Japan. And over here, we ended up getting like a little robot S7 or something like that who would talk to us, narrate to the audience, I guess, so they could sneak in some changes and stuff, right? So I get to finally watch. I know this has been all over YouTube before. I watched a few episodes and stuff, but I'm really excited to visit this 42 years later and see the uncut stuff. Now, the last episode they did show in America. I remember watching it because I watched this so much that I noticed that the animators had a way of drawing men in their jawlines and lips, and how they drew females. So I thought the bad guy was secretly a woman. Well, it turns out he was a hermaphrodite. That was the term used back then. Okay. And it showed in America. Well, when I Wikipedia'd it, when we got Wikipedia, it was one of the Battle of the Planets. G-Force Gatchaman was one of the first things that I looked up to see. Then they said they never showed that last episode in America. I saw it when I was a kid. That's how I knew about it. It's now an official Howlermouth stream. Wait a minute. What was that about? Ah, my deal on that. Yeah, $5, unopened and brand new. Yep. The look of G-Force was rad. The facial expressions were great, especially compared to the '90s reboot. See, I think I caught a little bit of that G-Force reboot. You know, I remember watching it and then not wanting to watch it because everybody's name was changed. You know what I mean? Everybody's names were changed. I'm like, what have they done? I started noticing the voices were different. I just knew this was not my Battle of the Planets, and I was really confused. I mean, I'm not joking. I was like in my early 20s. I'm just like, wait, am I remembering this whole show wrong? You know, it really messed with me when they did that. If you watch the original episode shown in Japan, the stories and conclusions are in some cases completely different. You can find some of them on YouTube. Right, I've checked them out here and there, which is why I had to get this. I've been looking for this. I just don't know how many volumes they put out, but this is 7 and 8, 12 cartoons, and a bonus DVD. So that should be really cool. I have Land of the Lost, got it. Lidsville and H&R Puffin stuff. I have H&R Puffin stuff that I got at a library over here through donation. I have that. Lidsville, I kind of dug Lidsville. It was out there. I've not seen Battle of the Planets, but I've seen Science Ninja Team Gatchaman. It's good. Awesome. Awesome. Much like Voltron, entirely different beast from the Japanese original. Fantastic. I see what you did there. That's funny. Okay, we got John Jones jumping in. Oh, Charlton 66 Lidsville is creepy, man. Yeah, all those H&R, all those yeah, all that stuff in the 70s from oh my god, why am I going blank? I also have Bugaloos over here. Yeah, a lot of that stuff was creepy. Sigmund and the Sea Monsters was my favorite, but Land of the Lost will always be my number one, you know. Oh, it's an official stream until the phone rings. That's right. Yeah, the phone went off. That's right. John Jones, Ghost in the Shell is my first taste of anime. That '95 movie is amazing. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I actually think I saw Vampire Hunter D around the same time that Ghost in the Shell came out. So yeah, all that stuff was hitting at the same time. I think what happened was, believe it or not, Pixar's Toy Story really made a surge in this stuff. This is pre-internet days, guys. So when there was an interest shown, a lot of these places would get this stuff because people were probably requesting it, or there's like a zeitgeist that people were wanting to try out new stuff. This is like local places. Okay. Tim had a Bring Back K-op or We Riot shirt. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. In Europe, we had a bunch of Japanese-produced alien, French, or Spanish-funded anime. I watched adaptations of The Three Musketeers, Tom Sawyer, Annie of the Green Gables. There's a chance that I saw the Three Musketeers one. They had the little matchstick girl. Oh my God. I'm not going to go into it. I want to mess them up. But I think we may have seen some of those. And of all places they showed them, Nickelodeon. Yeah, Nickelodeon over here back in the 80s. But my first anime was Ulysses 31. Never watched that, but I've heard of it. Nobody will ever convince me that Copious Mary Jane was not smoked during Copious. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing about it is they talked about one of the brothers going out on the beach. And he was apparently one of them, for I understand why can I not think of their names? Anyway, one of them was known to party, and the other one was the business side of things. The one that like the party was the more creative of the two, if you will. And they said that they suspected he was on acid or something. And they were on the beach and he was sitting there staring down at a pile of seaweed that came up. And he stood there and he stood there and he was like, I can do something with this. And he just kept staring at it. Sigmund and the Sea Monster supposedly came out of it that way, out of an acid trip of a guy looking at a pile of wet seaweed. Sid and Marty Krofft, thank you. Good God. Not only Sid and Marty Krofft got it all at first. Okay, Robotech was technically my first anime, but I usually don't count it because it's just another cartoon to me at the time. See, that's just it. That's just it. A lot of people try to validate themselves. There's a lot of people that really immerse themselves in this culture and stuff like that. A lot of people want to say they were first. These were just cartoons that came over. We didn't think where they came from. We knew it was a different style. Oh, that was cool. There's a lot of things that kind of open the doorway for people. You know what I mean? These things were just syndicated or popped up. I'll tell you about Force 5 in a minute here. God, I missed the 90s Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah, the 90s Sci-Fi Channel was fantastic. Kid Ragnarok, I'm glad you were there. There's a lot of shows on there that was really cool. One was like Prisoners of Gravity. Oh my God, that show was so good, but I could tell it was left over from the 80s or a Canadian show or something. And then there's another show where it was this dude who had a bowl cut and he was real skinny. He had a mustache and he was like real long and lanky and he talked about sci-fi stuff. There was a couple shows that were there for half a minute before they started started showing Buck Rogers all the time. In that Three Musketeers anime, they had a second story arc with the Man in the Iron Mask, and they turned Artemis into a woman and none of the other. Yeah, I saw that. I said that was the one. And I'm telling you, man, I think it was on Nickelodeon. If you like Battle of the Planets, there's a show called Kojun Sentai Jetman that just got a DVD that was inspired by Science Ninja Shin Gatchaman. Oh man, Cayman X, you need to do a channel and just do this stuff. I mean, you are on it with this anime stuff. Kevin Kelly, what's up, brother? All right. When TBS had Battle of the Planets in syndication, they also showed a series about a family of giant robots, space giants. You're talking about space giants, I bet. Goldar, Silvar, Jim. They lived in a volcano, I think, or something. And their little boy was normal sized, wore a red sweater vest, and had a helmet on with two antennae. I love that. I have some of the space giants on VHS. They had and bottom bootleg. They had a small Comic-Con, and I met Louise and Walt Simonson. I wanted to adopt them. Well, I'm glad you got to meet them because when I tried to meet them, they were, I was sitting there in line for almost 2 hours, I think, and Charlton 66 texted me asking me how it was going or if I'm about done. And I said, we're still waiting on him. And he turned around and they were walking around the con talking to people. And they had this big, huge line of people waiting for 2 hours. Walt and Wheezy are awesome. I keep hearing that. I met Walt 2 years ago. Fantastic guy. That just killed me that I was waiting in line for so long when I was at a con. All right. So I got this now. The other show that I got, and I've looked them up and I found them. My favorite one was Star Avengers, but I think I've mentioned this on here before, and I'm sure talked to some people on here before. But in like 1980 and 81, maybe up to 82, there was a show, and I found out through the internet that it was only syndicated in New York, Pennsylvania, and somehow Virginia got it. 3 states, right? And it was called Force 5. This guy had bought up a bunch of Japanese cartoon shows from the 70s and brought them over here and called the show Force 5. And it had Star Avengers, which was the one I loved. And here we go. I'm going blank. But it was like 3 or 4 different shows of giant robots, fighting and things like that. And it was just fantastic. It was giant robots fighting giant robots. Manager Z, I'm going to butcher them now, but Star Avengers was the big one for me. And actually, I might get on Facebook or one of the social media places. I don't like Twitter that much at all, but I might get on Instagram or something and put up a few photos and then hashtag them, so that people can jump on there and see these shows I was talking about. Hey, later, Kid Ragnarok. Good to see you. I'm not hanging around much longer. Ever seen a show called Johnny Soko and His Flying Robot? Nope. But I will definitely try to look it up. And yes, a great show. Yeah, Charlton 66 got to see it. Awesome. All right, guys. Yeah, that's it. Messenger Z. Yeah, I'm just not up to this. I got to get some sleep. I want to take a nap after this. I can see in the camera my eyes are all puffy and stuff. So, oh, but Twitter is such a bastion of civility. You know it, Eric Bean. You know it. Yeah, it's one of those things where I played around with it, seeing what it takes to get people to talk to you sometimes. And I actually left a few real nasty posts on purpose. You know what I mean? On purpose. And those were the ones that people have jumped on. Now, don't get me wrong. I've put out just some regular stuff, nothing big here and there. I've got a few people who are like, they responded to nice stuff, but write something on there nasty or negative, and people will just flock to you and you get retweeted and all this stuff. And what kills me is that the people, who is this, Renfamous or something like that, Renfamous or something. And I've gone around and seen a few other communities that have actually nothing to do with gaming and comics and stuff. And there always seems to be one, but it seems like the big thing is to deplatform people. There are people who sit there all day long. They have 8,000 to 20,000 followers, 10,000 followers, I think. Yeah. And all they do is brag to each other, taking screenshots, showing people that they've gotten their account suspended and deplatformed, act like it's a party. I don't care if I get flack for this or not, but like when your one accomplishment in life is that you are a Twitter celebrity with your little followers and stuff like that, there's more. You might want to. I just kind of wish you could take that energy and do something really good in real life. Go get some rest, brother. Or we watch the video later. You too, man. You have a good day, man. Twitter's a place where you go to end wars, get yourself blocked and the war ends. Yeah, that's funny. All right, man. I can sit here and just put down Twitter all day long, but I think I'm going to go get some rest now. I can hear my words slurring and stuff. It's been a fantastic weekend. I can't believe that this stream has gone as long as it is. So you guys have a good one. So thanks for dropping in, guys. Great to see all of you. Hit the bell, sub, throw this thing around, share this on any media that you can. Let's get some more people in here talking about pure comics as much as we can. And if I ever talk about anything else, you'll have a heads up about it there. Later, guys. Y'all have a good one.